So how do we do masakan? Well, first, it's nice if we all agree how we might be together. This is not a covenant. This is simply guidelines. You know, sociologists, when they study people, or think Jane Goodall or Diane Fossey, how many of you saw Gorillas in the Mist at some point? Do you remember how Diane Fossey determined which particular ape was part of which tribal group? Do you remember? I will remind you, it's the same way sociologists do it with humans. If you behave like you're a member of the group, you're a member of the group. If you don't, you're not. So having guidelines that say this is how we behave, one of the behaviors, and I'm not talking about we don't applaud after music. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about we behave like we're responsible for our own presence in the world and the effect that has on others. So I'm responsible if I'm having a problem with Myra, and I go over and I say to Joan, that Myra. And Joan says,
you bet, I know.
Okay. But, what would we like Joan to say, Naomi?
Why don't we go talk to Myra and I'll be with you?
Makes sense. Have you talked to Myra? No, I'm afraid of Myra. Well, then I'll go with you to talk to Myra. No, I don't want to do that either. And then Naomi would say, then I don't want you to talk to me about Myra either. Okay? So directness is encouraged. We talk about how we're going to sustain community. You don't sustain community by letting people endlessly gripe about each other. Doesn't work. Doesn't work in families either, does it? But remember that we have all of these stages of faith development we haven't gone through, so when you push the right parts of me, I revert back to my 5th grade person, and that 5th grade person spiritually also has a 5th grade toolbox. Eric Erickson says so. And that 5th grade toolbox has, she doesn't like me, she doesn't like me. Let's go beat her up together, Rachel.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Next. We have to have and cultivate a shared understanding that the well-being of the community is more important, or at least as valued as highly, as the well-being of any specific individual. Okay? So when people behave in ways that are damaging to community, I think it was T.S. Eliot who wrote that there are people in the world who do incalculable harm because they are so absorbed in themselves. They don't intend the harm. They are simply indifferent to it. Next. What are the competencies then and skills? Deep listening, effective listening. Keep going. We're going to roll these. Nonviolent communication. Take that class or I'll kick your butt. Willingness. A willingness to change oppressive attitudes in others, as well as yourself. Visible support for elected leaders. What does visible mean? What does visible mean? Where's Jennifer Carver? Thank you for being president of this district. You are amazing. And a servant of this faith. And Randy Becker, I love your ministry in Key West, and I love that you keep us on our toes even when you and I don't agree, and maybe especially then. Okay? And we can do this all the time. And when I say elected, how do we get ministers? We call them, which is a vote. When the people have spoken, aren't you tired of the Tea Party right now? Okay. So I'm tired of the sort of the assumption that we don't have to pay attention to the real results of real elections. I mean, we put up with 8 years of the stuff being rigged down here. All over the country we put up with that, okay? And we said, okay, he's the president. We got over it. All right? We need to get over this. And therefore, we have to support leaders. The same behavior that we don't like in the public square, we tolerate in our social halls. What is that about? If we want society to grow up, we are to provide a model. We need to appreciate ourselves and other people, both. So aren't I fine today? All right. Each one of us uniquely fitted to be here doing what we're doing. And we need the competency to build bridges. To build bridges between people in situations where non-constructive conflict could arise. I want you to notice that term. If you think you joined a church to be safe, to be happy, and so there'd be no conflict, you're wrong. Because there's conflict every time you go from one state to another. You know this about decisions in your life. You're conflicted. You say, I'm kind of conflicted about that. Yeah. These things happen. There's a positive benefit that comes out of conflict. A new identity, a new resolve, a new understanding. Somebody who I've worked with a lot at the UUA, I said to him one day, I said, somebody who a couple of you report to, and I said, I think you and I are becoming friends. And he said, well, we could be, but we've never really had a serious disagreement yet, and I won't know until I see how we resolve those things. What a smart dude. I said, I'm going to warn you now, I fight dirty and I win. No. But you see, isn't that like such a mature thing to say? You know, I see these folks in the grocery stores who are like, they've got their 8 and 9-year-olds, and they're saying, now you need to get ready to go now. No, you can't have that. And then they cave into all that stuff, right? So all they're doing is delaying the conflict until the child actually has the ability to drive off. You know, you should manage conflict early when you have the upper hand as a parent. Seriously, it's like if you're giving in when they're 6, 16, and every once in a while I'll look at one of them, I'll go, first child, huh? Yeah. Oh, baby. Okay, next. And understandings. We should all understand that a community always works better when everybody is included and can build close relationships with other people, and they're encouraged to do that. That there are no strangers in this, our home. Next. Effective listening helps to resolve conflict and build community. Valuing ourselves and our background, bringing it all. I was a Methodist. I'm a lesbian. I'm Swedish. Whatever it is, and talk about what effect that had on you so we can celebrate and hold up who we are. Because we're in a world that wants us to be vanilla, even when we're not even close to that. Okay? We are a rainbow. Right here we're a rainbow. Somebody better hold up the rainbow. It's not just red states and blue states. There are other colors, and I love them all. Okay? Children, youth, and adults are all valued. All of us. All of us. And the groups that we belong to give us a rich opportunity to take a look at that rainbow and share and learn about other people and other cultures and other foods and other cool songs and other. Paula Cole-Jones met at Joan London's invitation, actually came and met with the UUA board. She's been working with us on our anti-racism work for several years. She asked this question at the end of the October board meeting in 2006. We asked her, we said, you know, what do you struggle with? What do you think about? She said, I wonder, this is a woman who's raised Unitarian Universalist. She said, I wonder, does Unitarian Universalism have the incentive to change, to become a community where all are welcome? Does it have the incentive to change? Are we willing to build the competencies? Are we willing to acquire the skills? Reverend Alma Crawford at the UUMA Convo asked this question. Will we choose the stagnant habits of the status quo over the possibility of growth and change? You might think, oh no, we wouldn't. But truth is, we do it time and time and time again. Every time you hear, it wasn't my idea, that's you're voting for the status quo. Every time you hear somebody say, that wasn't grassroots, you're voting for the status quo. Every time you hear somebody say, we've tried that before and it didn't work, you're voting for the status quo. Okay? And so my last question here is, if community is central to our religious tradition and our identity today, why don't we require a pledge? We ask people to come to church. Why don't we ask these people, all of us, who come and say we want to be part of a community, to develop the skills that are necessary for all of us to have one?